Greetings, everyone. It is I, James Marcuso. This is the Kirkpatrick Signature Series. It is week 8, and this brief video, I will discuss the U.S. Bill of Rights and the French Declaration of Human Rights. The U.S. Bill of Rights has 10 entries. The French document has 17 entries. There are many similarities because they are contemporary documents. They were written about the same time. Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Ben Franklin spoke French. Traveled to France, lived in France, French ambassadors at different times, and the French and the Americans that were both engaged in their independence movements were reading similar types of documents, writings by John Locke, for example, Adam Smith, to a lesser degree. So a lot of similarities. And the similarities focus on, generally, life, liberty, and some pursuit of happiness or freedom. There seems to be a greater focus in the American document on independence, on the individual having primacy. The French document seems to do that, but to a slightly lesser degree. And it's understandable why there would be differences, because in the U.S., for example, we had conflict with the British. And the Church of Britain, the Anglican Church, was an extension of that British power in American society, which is one of the reasons why we wanted religious liberty and religious freedom, but also because of the sort of a pilgrim heritage, people fleeing religious persecution. The French had a little bit of a different circumstance. Within their own country, they had a conflict with the monarchy, but also with the church. The Catholic Church was a very powerful entity across Europe back in the day. And so the French to this day still have a bit of a sour taste in their mouth when it comes to the power of the church. So there's a distinction that's sort of made where we don't really talk much about social distinction and class in American society, but that's something that the French are concerned with because of their direct experience with the monarchy and the elites and the nobility versus the peasants. So there's a little distinction, there's some differences there. But otherwise, there's a big focus on freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of association. The French didn't have any preference for ownership of firearms. That's actually something that comes from British common law that we took as a heritage from that political background. So there's a little bit of a distinction there. So the first two rules, really, in the American Declaration, or the American Bill of Rights, is you can say, think, read, write, believe, and associate however you want, peaceably, and tell the government to shove it or fix it. And you get to have a gun. That is maximum personal freedom. The French document focuses differently. They do attempt to set up a government that's accountable. They talk about an allowance for taxing and for military and for accountability and for some transparency. So we see a lot of similarities, but we see some differences in preference just based on different value systems, but we really don't see a conflict. And there wouldn't likely be one. And so that's what I want to tell you about the U.S. and French documents. We will come back and we'll discuss the UN document on human rights that was written in 1948, nearly 150 years later. I'll talk about that in just a moment.